Hello and welcome to the Fatpants podcast. Unbothered by pretty much every piece of food, my name is Pants.
And I'm Slacky. The only thing I'm allergic to is Pants' terrible opinions on ranch.
What lies ahead is the final battleground for all food disputes, big and small. No matter the state, the culture, or the country, there's one thing that everyone understands, and that is Fat Pants. Slacky, the people have spoken, and what they've said is that they like it when pretty much anybody that isn't us is here. So,
True.
with that feedback in mind, I thought it would be a good idea to rally the troops and get some experts involved when we can with whatever subjects that we have. So, this month, with the topics of allergies and food alternatives, I would like to introduce our good friend, ADurableLlama.
Hey, I'm Llama. Thanks for having me, y'all. I am a 8-time survivor of EpiPen injections who has quite a few food allergies. So hopefully I can weigh in a little bit and help out with some perspective or terrible opinions.
Now, is that eight
Individual,
eight
separate times.
individual
Yeah.
times? Jesus.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a lot.
Horrible.
That sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. My allergist has told me that most adults have only ever used it with, I'd say probably 40% of people having used it twice. So the fact that I used it 6 times before I was 18 and then twice since then is the most my allergist has ever seen.
Dang.
Sounds like Llama is reckless.
It does sound like you may.
So not really. I check the label on every single thing that I eat. Most of my adulthood allergic reactions have been either mislabelings or cross contaminations,
Ooh, we love
and
those.
most of my childhood ones were 100% one of my parents' fault. Like I was playing golf with my dad once, and he went to give me a scoop of goldfish from the bar right at the end of the 18th hole, and he accidentally gave me a cup of peanuts, and I wasn't paying attention, and I ate them, and oh boy, that doesn't feel good. So maybe reckless, but I tend to think of it more as unlucky or that shouldn't have happened, but it happened to me, and good thing I'm prepared.
So what all are you deathly allergic to, Llama?
At this point in time, I am fatally allergic to peanuts and all nuts, tree nuts. Those are the ones that will get to me the most quickly. Fish and shellfish, I am allergic to, but anaphylaxis is kind of a toss up there. Sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't. But I was, up until the age of 12, able to eat fish and shellfish. I used to eat crab all the time, loved shrimp, but I was unable to eat
Right.
eggs. So as a kid, I couldn't eat eggs or nuts. And as an adult, I can eat eggs, but I cannot eat nuts or
Mhm.
fish or shellfish.
Interesting. Now, how does that impact you and your general food happiness, knowing what you can no longer eat?
So weirdly enough, like I've been allergic to peanut butter my whole life, and everybody has always told me, "Hey, like Reese's peanut butter cups, they're amazing. Chocolate and peanut
Mhm.
butter, a fantastic combination." And I mean, either unfortunately or fortunately for me, I have actually tasted it before. And the way my body responds to things like that is that my taste buds can't actually do it justice. It tastes like cardboard covered in dirt. Like it tastes horrible. And so
Interesting.
going to something like fish or shellfish that I used to be able to eat, and I have very fond memories of what it tasted like.
Mhm.
Eating it as an adult, because when I learned that it wasn't like guaranteed anaphylaxis, of course, I was like, okay, I'm going to try it and see what happens. I've got some Benadryl. I should be fine.
Sure.
And while the next 24 hours were incredibly uncomfortable, a food that I had eaten for 12 years suddenly tasted horrible. So there's something in my body that is kind of like the natural defense mechanism that something that is going to adversely affect me will taste terrible.
That's wild because
That's actually pretty cool.
I think so too.
is that normal for people with allergies? Like, I don't know if you have like an allergy support group. I apologize. But
I do not anymore. I used to be in like a newsletter and pen pal kind of organization for young kids with food allergies,
That's kind of
but
cool.
not anymore. Yeah.
but is it like a normal thing for people with food allergies? Like, if they try to taste a Reese's peanut butter cup and you're allergic to peanuts, it just tastes like ass.
So, in all honesty, I don't know. My cousin, who also has some food allergies, much more mild, and things like sesame seeds, he
Mm.
says that he can taste them. And like what I will do if I think I'm allergic to something is I can touch something to the tip of my tongue And if my tongue feels all tingly and feels like it's swelling up, I'm like, okay, clearly there's an allergen in there. I'll rinse my mouth out and I'm usually good to go.
Right.
He says that if he eats like a burger and the bun had sesame seeds on it,
Hmm.
he can barely taste it. So
Mm,
I think this is something more unique to me in that
okay.
I'm just super sensitive to a lot of things. And so my body tries to protect myself and defend itself in that way. And
He's a
That makes sense.
he's
maybe
a
that's
super, super taster.
yeah, or I mean, maybe that's just the result of using an EpiPen so many times that my body is like, heck it, we're gonna do this ourselves.
Your body is like, please no more. Please stop doing
Please
this.
make it stop.
And you have brothers, right? Two brothers, right?
I do. Two brothers.
And neither one of them have allergies. It's just you.
Just me.
That must have been really a heckin' fun growing up in a family where your parents are like, "Oh, it's that guy with the food allergies."
You know
Oh,
what
oh
though?
man.
I think it would be worse if so you listed like 4 or 5 allergies. I think it would be worse to have 3 separate children with
Mm,
multiple different allergies.
that would be
Because that
bad.
way it's like, okay, well, what do we make for three? Like, what can we feed 3 different people that don't have this, or this? Like having one person with all the allergies is like, cool, you get to have a wafer for dinner. The rest of you have whatever you want. Like that's the epitome of taking one for the team. Um, by just having all of your siblings worth of allergies, you just have them all. It's unfortunate, but it's a very it's a very heroic play.
So in
You're
all
doing a
honesty, like
service.
I'm not very scientifically smart in the like biological sense, but I am one of 3. I'm the only one who has food allergies. Food allergies are genetic, so we traced it back to my, grandmother's brother, who they used to live on a peanut farm, and he passed away when he was a toddler, and nobody knew why until I was
Wow.
born, and my
Okay.
grandmother was like, "Oh, oh, that makes a lot of sense,"
That's
which is just
that's the
amazing.
worst case scenario.
Wow.
Mhm. But my cousin is one of 3 kids, and only he is the one with allergies.
Hmm.
My other cousin now has 3 kids, and one of their kids is peanut allergic, and the other 2 kids have no allergies.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
I honestly don't know genetically how it works, but I mean, with that very limited case study, it seems like generally only one kid is ending up with allergies, and the other 2 are getting off scot-free.
Hmm.
It's like male pattern baldness. It skips a generation.
You didn't tell me you were gonna roast me for my hair too.
Yeah, this is it. This whole
Uh,
episode is about allergies and hairlines.
no.
That's what this
Perfect.
is about.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about allergies versus intolerances, where the main intolerances being milk and gluten. We'll stick with those two. I know there's a lot more, but we'll just stick with those two for now.
Sure.
Where a food allergy occurs when the immune system basically reacts to a food, which is usually harmless, and the body's like, nope. And then an intolerance occurs when the body has a chemical reaction to eating a particular food or drink and cannot process it. My wife has a lactose intolerance, and it developed after the kiddo was born. She could eat ice cream, she could drink milk, she could do cheese, all up until she got pregnant. And then right after the kiddo was born, she just discovered that, nope, I can't eat that stuff anymore because I can't process it anymore.
That kind of thing I feel like is actually like a lot more common than
Mhm.
people think. Like I know my sister got gestational diabetes when she was pregnant, and it like she went from like a pretty healthy like dietary lifestyle to being like, oops, you have diabetes now because you have a child.
Yeah.
And then it resolved itself. And then when she had her second kid, it happened again. And then it never
Mm.
resolved. So now she just has to like manage being diabetic. It's like, that's wild. I guess it's just like whatever physical changes and like chemical changes,
Yeah.
it like things can just get caught. The same as like llama losing an egg allergy, but taking on a fish and shellfish allergy. Like that's who dictates that trade. Who says you can have eggs but you can't have shrimp? Because I'd like a word with that person.
Honestly, me too. I mean, granted, I'm glad I can eat eggs now. I love eggs, but
So
why me?
in in the grand scheme of things, I think being able to eat eggs is way more valuable than being able to eat shellfish because there's so much stuff or
Mhm.
so many things rather that have eggs or like some remnant of egg byproduct in like crazy things. I don't know how your body would react to having like a pastry that had egg wash on it. Like
Oh,
I don't know.
I had never thought about
I
that.
don't know how severe that would be. So like if somebody has an egg allergy, can they
yeah,
eat pie crust? I don't know if there's egg in pie crust, but something that like a baked thing, even if
yeah,
somebody made like a any kind of thing that has an egg wash on it, it's like okay, well, you can't eat that. That's a I think that's a worthwhile trade if you absolutely had to choose between the two. As
yeah.
somebody who loves pretty much every shellfish, I would rather be able to eat eggs.
I definitely agree. Like, I can eat cookies now. I used to have to avoid cookies as a little kid
No,
because
I'd
most
die.
of them had eggs in them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, like, I'll happily give up crab cakes, shellfish, shrimp to be able to eat cookies. The
Yeah.
sweet tooth far outweighs the seafood desire.
Oh, 100%. Slacky, sorry to derail you there,
Oh, it's
but
fun.
Well, and what I was thinking about with intolerances is I feel like
Mhm.
it's mostly or like it's most common with capsaicin, like hot sauces. You hear that
yeah,
as you get older, like you get above 35, 45, 55, and suddenly your body just can't handle hot sauces that you've been eating for the past few decades. And that to me is more along the lines of an intolerance than an allergy because it's definitely a chemical reaction that makes your body feel a certain way for up to 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah,
sure. I think you're spot on with that, where the intolerance is your body's lack of capacity to
yeah,
process. All my lactose intolerant homies, people who don't have who have like a really mild case, some stuff, it's worth it's worth the suffering. Where it's like, ooh, I'm gonna have this macaroni and cheese, and then I'm gonna go feel bad for a while.
yeah,
But like people who have a more severe lactose intolerance where it's like this is not worth
yeah,
like it's not worth it. Like you can't like, oh, I can't even like is it lactate? I think
yeah.
is like
The
a
the
an intolerance blocker or
the
like
med the medicine you take that helps break down the lactose,
mhm,
the whatever the chemical that the body doesn't produce anymore to help break it down. You take the lactate and it kind of acts as that byproduct to help break it down.
mhm,
So like if you want to try to steal a bowl of ice cream, you take the lactate ahead of time knowing that this is about to happen and then it helps. It doesn't entirely break everything down, but it's definitely a lot better than the alternative of having your body going, nope, you're gonna be miserable for the next
sure.
12 hours.
I don't, I'm curious. I wonder if that's similar to like an antacid before having something that's hot or something that's just like a high acidity thing where it's like your body just can't process it anymore, especially if you have like acid reflux or anything like that.
Yeah.
The other like major intolerance that you would if someone's like, "Oh, what name some things that people are intolerant to from a food perspective." It's like lactose and gluten are the two big ones.
They were yeah,
The gluten intolerance, especially for people who have like celiacs, there's
yeah,
no I don't think at least that there's a like any kind of medicine thing that can be taken to lessen that like like depending on what you have and like what your level of intolerance to gluten is. That kind of stuff is always like that stuff freaks me out in terms of like, wow, hey, like Lama, you'd mentioned that cross contamination was a big issue. Like anytime like food intolerances or allergies come up, that like cross contamination is such a big part of it.
yeah.
Where it's just like, oh well, everything here is made with this and everything's clean, and then they use like a knife that they cut red meat or they use a knife that they cut like cheese with to cut something that is dairy free. It's like, well,
I have 2, allergic reaction stories directly related to that, actually.
Cool.
One,
Fun.
is in junior year of high school. I had gone in early for preschool workouts and practice and whatnot, and my
mhm,
girlfriend at the time had gone to my favorite bagel place and gotten me a bagel.
let's go.
I She brought it to class because I hadn't eaten food, and so I'm sitting there in class eating a bagel, feeling, real cool because I've got breakfast and food in class and nobody else does.
Mhm,
And I take one bite of this bagel sandwich. It's just a plain bagel, eggs, sausage, and cheese. And I've gotten it from this place a million times. Well, because she wasn't going to see me for the rest of the day, she had gotten herself a peanut butter bagel. And they
No.
oh
prepared hers
no.
first and used the same knife to cut my bagel. So I take one bite and I'm like, okay, I'm dying, and had to run to the nurse. And I mean, completely unrelated, but the nurse, due to liability reasons, was too afraid to give me the EpiPen. So I myself had to give myself the EpiPen in the nurse's office at school, which was just a terrifying experience.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But then a second thing, this one happened probably 7 or 8 months ago, and this is I did some research on it, and this is a direct cause or a direct impact from COVID. So trolley sour gummy worms,
Yeah.
like absolutely fantastic. So the
Yes.
big bags, the 2-pound bags or larger, have
Mhm.
no allergy warning on them. I have been eating them for years. They're safe for me. Those are kind of my go-to sour gummy worms and whatnot.
Okay.
I bought a small bag, like a not even a share size bag, but like a one serving
Mhm.
size bag while Toasty and I were on a road trip. And I was like, I have eaten these for years. I'm not going to bother checking the label. Took one bite and I was like, this tastes wrong.
Mm-mm.
But I was like, it doesn't taste wrong enough to where I'm worried. And so I actually swallowed the gummy bear and was immediately like, oh, that's an allergic reaction. And I grabbed the bag immediately and looked at it. And this bag, unlike any of the other bags, had an allergy warning on it.
Hmm.
Oh
And
no.
so I went to my computer and I traced things, and from an allergen perspective, they make and process and package these small bags in a facility that also does other food allergen items, like other
Oh.
food allergen candies. But the big bags have their own dedicated factory. So some of these food items, candy especially, because a lot of chocolates aren't safe and whatnot,
Yeah.
some
Mhm.
will have their own dedicated facilities, and that's why some sour gummy worms are okay for me to eat, even from the same company that makes the smaller bags, because the smaller bags are done in a facility that makes a whole lot of other snack size
Wild.
desserts and
So
candies.
so do you have to like when you're getting like smaller packaging, do you have to check the distribution center that like where like it'll say like, oh, they're like distributed out of this, like that kind of stuff?
I
Or
don't
is
no, I don't have to check. So the back of every bag, if there's
Mhm.
even a minute chance of cross contamination, will have an allergy warning on it. Because
Okay.
like at the end of the day, if I have an allergic reaction to something that doesn't have a warning on it, I
Mhm.
have a ton of legal action.
Of
Hey,
Sure.
course.
like, this is my life, you didn't warn me. But the issue here is it's definitely a me problem, is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what's safe and what's not, and if
Yeah.
it's something new, I check. But
Sure.
now with COVID and supply chain disruptions and
Mhm.
factories closing and whatnot, like, these companies have changed the way they have made these products. So with this change in the way these companies package these products, I'm now having to take 30 years of experience and relearn what snacks and what foods are safe. So the
Yeah.
error was obviously all mine, because instead of checking the label like I should be doing, like as my allergist would tell me, check the label every single time you eat anything, anytime you go
Mhm.
out, ask the servers, ask the kitchen staff. I
Mhm.
had said, okay, I know it's safe. I know what I can do. I know what I can eat. I'm good to go. And now I've had a couple of really close calls, and now I'm just realizing I've got to read all the labels again, because the change in process means some things that used to be safe are no longer safe.
That's wild because you said something and it triggered a thought in my mind. I went out last night with a bunch of work friends to go out to eat, and we went to this restaurant, and it's a predominantly seafood restaurant.
Mhm.
And the first thing the waiter asks us is like when we're sitting down, and he goes, "Does anyone have any allergies or intolerances that we need to worry about?" Like, I feel like a lot of restaurants these days are starting to basically say, let's ask the public if there's something that they're allergic to instead of them saying, hey, I can't eat this. I'm allergic to it. Like they're trying to get out in front of it instead of trying to defend against it.
Sure.
Exactly. That's definitely in a larger city, though.
Yeah.
Like, where I live in a tiny little town where I
100%.
am, most of the time they're like, What are allergies? You can't eat this. Why would you eat here then?" And I'm just like, "All right, I'll go somewhere else."
Yeah. I know when anytime we go out, I feel like any unless it's like a dive bar kind of
Mhm.
establishment, almost without a doubt, there's always been like a oh like or like what kind of allergies or anything like that. Thankfully, I don't have any allergies to food or like any intolerances or anything like that. And like Katie is pretty minimal in hers, so there's really not a lot of stuff that we have to watch out for. And like the few things that we do have to watch out for, like mangoes, that's a pretty easy thing to spot
Mhm.
Mhm.
because it's like if something has the word tropical on it, it's like we just skip it. Like,
9 out of
oh,
10
this
times it's
has
mango.
yeah, which is no skin off my back. Is that the phrase? I think that's the phrase.
I
Either
I
way,
think that's the phrase.
I
Uh-oh.
don't I don't mind either way because mangoes are not good. I will not be taking any questions.
Oh, what about comments and concerns? Because I love mangoes.
No, I don't. It's a texture thing. Mango, papaya.
Okay, that's
It's
that's
it's
completely
it's
fair.
just like a slimy, gross thing. It's like the same. Like I don't like persimmons because they taste slimy. They also kind of taste like creamed corn, and I don't want it. I don't want fruit that tastes like creamed corn.
Um, Out here where I live, dried mango is really popular, and it's actually really good too.
I'm gonna trust you on that. I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna. You can have mine.
I'm offering it as an alternative to pants because
No.
it's not slimy. It's more of like a dried
You know what
like
I
dried fruit basically.
So you know what I don't want? One,
Mm,
dried fruit. I'm not
okay.
90. Dried fruit is is for old people, but not
I want
diabetics.
I want craisins on my salad, please.
Don't put fruit in salads. We got to stop doing that.
Oh, but what about
Oh,
mandarin oranges?
oh.
Mandarin oranges on a salad are
Oranges have
fantastic.
no place in a salad. I'm sorry. Oranges,
Well,
uh, some
you
like
can have that argument with my dad because that's how he makes every single salad.
that's fine.
With oranges.
Oranges don't have a place in salad. That's not what this episode's about. We could talk about that next month.
All right.
Let's talk about a much more time prominent debate. I don't know how much of a debate this is, as much this may just become a me shouting that you're wrong kind of situation.
That's like every episode, pants.
Yeah, but they like that. The people like that part. They like the people that aren't us, and they like when I go Slacky, you're wrong.
Mm.
Except your wife. She doesn't like when I do that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you're still in the doghouse.
that's fine. It's an okay place to be when it's not my wife. The big topic here, and this is only a big topic to me, I feel, is the argument between the naming convention of nut milks and or nut water or nut juices. My argument right now is that it's nut milk. I don't care what you want to tell me it is. It's nut milk.
So how do you get juice from an orange? Going back to the oranges, you squeeze it. You squeeze it, right?
Yeah.
How do you get the milk or the juice out of a nut?
You put it in a bunch of water and you smash it.
I
I
I
think
have
I
to
think
I have to say I'm horribly non-versed in this subject because I avoid nuts altogether.
true.
I did look up. I have 4 tabs open on how to make almond milk, and it's basically take almonds, insert almonds into water, and then smash the shit out of it and strain it. Almond water is probably more accurate.
I
However,
was gonna say the additive of water. It's probably mostly water then.
yeah, but like at that point, like skim milk is mostly water.
Watered down milk, yeah.
So if we're gonna call skim milk milk, then almond milk can still be milk.
And we all know skim milk is disgusting.
I grew up on skim milk, so thanks.
No.
Yikes. Straight to hell. Unfortunate.
Be nice to the guest, pants.
Look, I have to stick to my guns here. Skim milk is gross. 2% is the lowest percent of milk acceptable. People who casually drink, like recreationally drink whole milk, also need to stop, just for the record.
Well,
I feel slightly better about this take now.
Llama, you and I are going to hell then because I'm a whole milk drinker.
No,
On average, we are acceptable in Pants's eyes.
which is fine. But anyway, my argument here is that whole milk is gross to drink
Yeah.
recreationally. Whole milk as an ingredient, fine. Skim milk, I don't know who's cooking with skim milk, but stop. 2%, fine. No one should be drinking milk recreationally anymore unless you're an actual baby, I guess. And even then, don't.
I'm gonna ask a really probably silly question
Yeah.
to Llama. Can you drink coconut milk, or is that still considered a tree nut?
So a coconut is considered a tree nut. I have snacks in my drawer that I obviously don't eat because I forget to snack all the time that say
Oh,
contains
yeah.
tree nuts. But if you read through the label line by line, the only tree nut present is coconut. And so a
Interesting.
lot of companies have started saying like it contains tree nuts, but they'll put in parentheses the tree nut is coconut because a lot of people who are allergic to tree nuts like me aren't actually allergic to coconut.
Huh.
So
Okay.
coconut is kind of like the peanut of the nut category. In that if somebody like me says I'm allergic to all nuts, usually I'll say that includes peanuts and all tree nuts. Whereas if somebody
Mhm.
says tree nuts, they'll usually say
Mhm.
I'm allergic to tree nuts and coconut or tree nuts not coconut.
Okay.
So like I'm allergic to fish, but not anchovies or sardines. So for
What?
some reason the tiny fish are completely fine. So Caesar dressing is fine for me, but the rest of fish are not.
But sardines are gross, so
I'm learning so much. I'm legitimately learning a lot right now.
Hmm.
I do wonder how far the
Yeah, what's
tree
up?
nut thing goes. I feel like llama, I'm gonna need you to eat a bunch of fatal things and tell me what works and doesn't. Um,
I can tell you the only tree nut that does not elicit the reaction is coconut.
and that's fine.
Science.
Coconut's
Um,
delicious.
yep, I love
Um,
coconut.
The reason I bring up coconut milk is I don't drink any of the nut juice milk alternatives.
uh-huh.
I'm like we just established I'm a whole milk drinker,
That,
Hmm.
but my wife, who is lactose intolerant, she prefers coconut milk whenever she gets like her Starbucks made,
sure.
because she still loves to drink lattes, which is, coffee and milk, a
Right.
shitload of milk. And since she can't do the regular milk, she just does coconut milk, and she says it's the one that she likes the most. I know, Lama, you can't do almond milk. I'm assuming that would be very fatal. But have you tried any other milk alternatives like coconut or rice milk or something like that?
I have done coconut milk and oat milk are the
Okay.
Okay.
2 that I have tried, and I have tried every iteration. So, like, high sugar, high
Mhm.
fat, like, everything, to be completely honest. None of them quite scratch the itch that regular milk does. Like, whether it's 2%,
True.
1% skim milk, like,
So
there's
true.
just something a little bit off on them to me.
Mhm.
I'm
I
this.
I think
That
it's
makes
the
sense.
consistency.
Mhm.
Mhm.
As someone who can drink all of the milk alternatives, like the best one, without a doubt, is the least healthy one being cashew milk. It's such a smooth drink. Think it's almost like a thicker milk, just because it's got such a high fat content
Interesting.
of like coconut, rice, and oat milk. I like oat milk the best. I think it has the best flavor. Like coconut milk is fine to like mix into stuff. I feel like it's
Mhm.
like the best option because it has like a nice flavor to it without it
Yeah.
being
Mhm.
like a super dominant flavor.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
I I tend to agree with that. Toasty makes these, breakfast pudding cups almost. It's just like oat
Have my
milk, chia
attention.
seeds, flax seeds, and then, like, a bunch of cinnamon and blueberries,
Okay,
and it's
that sounds
basically
pretty good.
overnight oats, but with flax seeds.
wow.
Incredibly healthy and whatnot, but it tastes really good with oat milk. I don't eat
Mhm.
them because I don't have my life put together well enough to make myself breakfast the day
Sure.
before. But so she'll leave the leftover oat milk and I'll put it into cereal. And so I've bought cereals like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Lucky
Mhm.
Charms, Life Cereal, Raisin Bran, like a bunch of different things. And I have
Mhm.
found that oat milk mixed with like something like Special K or Raisin Bran actually tastes really good because it
Sure.
has that kind of sort of sweetness to the flavor that it adds to that cereal, but it's not like just a super sugary cereal.
Yeah.
So I actually like oat milk with healthier cereals, which just makes it a healthier, like I assume, slightly more balanced breakfast than if you were going to eat Lucky Charms and regular milk.
Yeah, and I
If,
think if you're in an instance where it's like, well, like if you have to have a milk alternative, like
Hmm.
those they're all fine. Literally, like cashew milk is
Mhm.
the only milk alternative that's not like good for you.
Yeah.
I feel like because it's just all fat. But that's
It's
like cashews in general. They're the best snacking peanut because they have like they're just not good for you. Like I don't like oh well like almonds are good for you, sure, but almonds take 45 years to eat and they don't taste like anything. Cashews are delicious and they're fast.
Very weird question. Are cashews the ones that look just kind of like a really small banana?
Yeah.
yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I'm annoyed at how quickly we both went, "Yep, that's right."
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that Pants is over here going, "These nuts are the best," and I'm like, "Yeah, Llama can totally attest to
Well, that's I'm
this."
I'm I'm telling him so he knows which ones are the best.
Well,
It's
yeah,
like
Right.
now I have opinions that
There you go.
I can die on these hills because it's someone else's words, not mine.
I
absolutely.
will say, he's right. Almonds are. I hate almonds. They're yeah. They have to be like some kind of. They have to like have some kind of like a flavoring, like a
Absolutely.
chocolate dusted almond or whatever. And my wife really loves those.
A
Cashews are the
chocolate
best nuts.
dusted almond?
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
they're dusted in like cocoa powder. So it's
Yeah,
still got like a little bit of that bitterness. And like an
usually a
almond
dark
itself
chocolate.
has like almost like an almost bitter taste to it, but like in a good way, like dark
Mhm.
chocolate would. The only problem with cocoa dusted almonds is that it's like, hey, you want to dry your mouth out like it's the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, you're right.
It's just like two really dry things on top of each other just compounds it like so
Yeah.
significantly.
I think when it comes to snacking nuts, I know we went on a super tangent here, but honey roasted peanuts are probably my favorite.
My problem with snacking peanuts is that I can just go through them too. It's They're such a small snack that it's easy to just rip through them. It's the same as
Mhm.
like if you snack on like goldfish or a small cereal of any kind, it's like you're just gonna rip through it because they're so small. You can just keep going.
True. Here's another silly question for Llama. One of my favorite pastimes going to a baseball game is eating the shelled peanuts. You can't
How
touch the
dare you?
shells either, right?
Correct.
Really?
Wow.
So I went to I very vividly remember this. Nothing, I never actually had an allergic reaction from this, but I went to a baseball game with a bunch of friends in high school down at what is the old Braves Stadium now. And we were sitting up in the nosebleeds, just like chopping it up, having a good time.
Hmm.
And it had been raining, so I had a raincoat and I had put it on the like seat kind of behind me, halfway sitting on it, like halfway on the ground. And it's those bleacher seats. And I turn around at the end of the game and go to pick up my rain jacket, and someone like 2 rows behind me, and there was nobody in that middle spot, which is why my jacket was behind, had been eating peanuts and dropping the shells on my jacket.
No.
And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So I asked one of my friends to take my jacket home and clean it for me because I was like,
Hmm.
I can't take this. I can't touch this.
Can't touch it, yeah.
And granted, I don't think I ever got that rain jacket back. I think it went like 2 months, and my friend was like, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to clean it. And I was
Just
just like,
burn it.
I'm just gonna get a new one.
Just
We're
no, not
Yeah,
burn it. Just
I
burn
ended
it.
up getting a new one. I think that's what he did. I think he just threw it away and was like, yeah, we're not dealing with this. But so baseball games used to be extremely tough for me.
I believe
But
that.
now I stand in whatever location has like a standing bar, and generally that's pretty safe.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, so
I know
I
that
avoided baseball games for like a decade because it terrified me.
I know a lot of stadiums
That's
have
like
allergy free or like allergy
Oh, but
areas.
that's like going
that's
into a
sitting at the loser
cafeteria in high
table.
Yeah,
school
Yeah,
where they
that's
say, "This is the peanut-free table," and I'm
the
like,
peanut free
"No
table.
way I'm gonna sit there." Like,
we
that is literally asking for me to get looked at weirdly.
we talked about that. I think last month we talked about the allergy tables. I don't know,
Mhm.
and it was just like, oh yeah, this is the loser table, and here's everyone else.
It's
Those
like
those are good when you have somebody willing to, like, take that first seat. So, like, I was
Sure.
a camp counselor, like, overnight camp counselor for a while, and once I was there, they realized, "Oh, we should put all of the food allergic kids in this guy's cabin because he can take care of them. He is the most prepared for any of this."
See, that makes sense.
I was the camp counselor for 12-year-olds, but
Hmm.
there was a peanut allergic table in the corner for, like, when people wanted peanut butter or when someone was homesick and that was, like, their comfort food, and
Hmm.
nobody like, when I was a camper there, I didn't wanna stay there. Like, I didn't wanna sit there. That seemed horrible. I didn't wanna draw attention to the fact that I couldn't eat some food.
Sure.
But then I realized, oh, if you have the 18-year-old counselor, the person willing to be the one to sit down, all of these kids will feel comfortable sitting over there because, "Oh, it's one of the older guys. It's a cool kid over there."
Hmm.
And so, like, I hated them in high school because everyone is the same age, whatnot. But like as a camper or as a counselor, I used those tables because it gave people a place to feel like completely safe from their food. They weren't looking around the table to see what other people were eating or asking to switch seats because somebody was eating peanut butter.
Hmm.
And so the older I've gotten, the more I've been like, actually, these are a fantastic idea.
Damn. Now I feel bad for calling them such mean things last time and this time.
No, but see, the thing is, I still call them mean things. I'm like, there's one good instance where I've seen them do well, and I'm like, all right, I like these now. But for
Sure.
most of my life, even when I was the one who needed them, I would make fun of the tables, and I was just like, no
Yeah,
chance I'll ever sit there.
oh, I
No,
know.
definitely not.
that's fair.
For the longest time, my wife refused to give the kiddo any kind of food that had food allergens in it because she was afraid that somebody in the school was going to
Hmm.
touch his food
Yeah.
and get allergic. And I'm like, they have areas in the cafeteria where the people with food allergies sit. And she goes, yeah, but that's lame.
And
And
Like,
see,
yeah, and
she
why?
at
knows.
the end
She
of the
knows that
day,
that's
it's who is responsible for the
Right.
food allergic kid. So my parents taught me to be incredibly responsible for myself because they were like, "Look, you can't rely on anyone else." And
Mhm.
granted, the way they really taught me that was that a couple of my earliest allergic reactions were their fault. And I was like, "Clearly, I can't rely on anybody else, not even my
I rely
parents."
on
So like
you either.
I've gotta learn to do this on my own. But I see it with a lot of really young kids, especially when I was a camp counselor, is that their parents expect everyone else around them to help take care of them. And that to
Mhm.
me just isn't realistic because you're not going to be like an adult who goes out to a restaurant and just assumes the restaurant is going to be safe. Like, oh no, they're busy, but they're going to take the proper precautions. No, they're not unless you specifically ask for it.
Well, I
Yeah.
will say this in a grand scheme. Like, I feel like our society has grown a little bit to where, like, I'm old, I'm 43. Like, 20 years ago, the idea
Yikes.
of, like, a food aller yeah, shut up. A food allergy kid was like, wow, like, he's, like, ostracized, where now I feel like it's more like, there's more availability and
Mhm.
Hmm.
more, just awareness when it comes to people with food allergies and people with intolerances too as well.
Sure.
Like gluten-free is everywhere now. Whereas
Hmm.
like 20 years ago, I had never even heard of gluten. I didn't even know what this was.
I do wanna point out there's one of the things on my like, later when we go over some of the food substitutes, one of the
Mhm.
things that I have is, like, the bane of gluten intolerant people every Slacky, what are some of your potentially your favorite I guess we'll call them vegetarian substitutes?
I don't
Vegetarian
have any
options?
because I hate vegetarian
What?
substitutes.
You're
I'm a
nope.
meat eater.
Alright, Llama, I'm gonna need you to come back next month, and it's just gonna be us.
I'll be here.
So you don't you really don't like any, like,
Well,
vegetarian substitute? Or you
not
just
not
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 prefer
really. I
like,
don't prefer them.
that's fair.
This funny story. Our kiddo went through a phase like when he was like 2, where he loved tofu. Like he loved playing with it and then immediately eating it afterwards. Just like squishing it, smashing it on the tray, and then eating just plain tofu. He loved it. As for me, I would rather just have like if I'm doing ramen, I'm probably gonna do like pork belly, because that's the way you do ramen instead
Sure.
of putting tofu in it.
Both are
And
good.
yeah, I typically when it comes to meat substitutes, they're not as good for me. I just prefer the actual meat, honestly.
That's fair. Pretty much every meat substitute is good. Tofu is fantastic. Seitan, also really good. Basically it's all gluten. You basically just rinse all of the starch out of flour and you're just left with the protein and the glutens in flour. And it's like the best mock chicken that you can get.
Interesting. I've never heard of it, honestly.
It's Seitan if you want to look it up. But it's super good. It's super easy to make as well. So like people who are trying to find like a vegetarian alternative to chicken, it's pretty easy to make. It takes some elbow grease, but like the process itself is pretty simple. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but tempeh is another okay meat alternative. I'm not crazy about it. It's similar to tofu. I think it's just got a different process.
I'm reading here, I'm looking it up online. Apparently it's made from fermented soybeans that has been formed into a block. It's kind of like it's a plant-based protein source originating in Indonesia.
Yeah, it's very similar to tofu. It's just got a different
Yeah.
texture to it. But I like all of them. Tempeh is probably my least favorite one. And then I don't know, have either of you guys had jackfruit? Llama, I don't even know if you can eat jackfruit. That's like a really popular now, at least, meat substitute.
It's like the huge fruit, right?
It's almost like pineapple
Mm,
in its texture, where it's like a very fibrous, sweet fruit. But I guess it's so like it's such a porous fruit that you can marinate it and it'll just take on whatever like flavors that you marinated in. Because by itself, I'm pretty sure it's like a pretty subtle flavor. It's super common at least in my experience to see it as a like a pulled pork.
makes sense if it's like got that kind of that fibrous
Yeah, because it shreds really
density
well.
to it. Yeah.
And
Yep.
honestly, like you guys, you might even be able to find it at like I know where I grew up, my regular grocery store had it like packaged in a marinade, and it was just like throw it in a skillet and like smash it with two forks, like you would shred regular pork, and
Mhm.
it's a really good flavor. I would say if you've never had it, try and have it somewhere like that makes it proper before you try to make it yourself or anything like that. But I don't know what it's considered. It's a tropical tree fruit. So you like llama, you might be able to eat it.
I actually don't know. I've never even heard of jackfruit before.
Somebody said that if you have a latex or a birch pollen allergy, you can't have it, which concerns me a little bit why latex and fruit have a
It might
linked
be
something.
it might be something to do with the skin of the fruit.
Maybe.
Llama, I know you live in the middle of nowhere and food substitutions are very limited for what you have to cook. I'm assuming, do you do a lot of tofu or any other meat substitutes?
Very, very rarely. So both Toasty and I are able and enjoy eating most of the meats that we can buy out here, whether it's beef, pork, chicken, turkey. So we tend to not substitute anything and just
Mhm.
get our protein through that kind of traditional manner. Toasty does still eat nuts. She'll take trail mix to the office and she'll eat it when she's not in the vicinity of me. But for me, I have found it's mostly easier to get my protein from traditional meat sources. So that's what I tend to make whenever I'm cooking at home.
Okay, that makes sense. It's the same as like the milk thing. Like, there's no reason to drink a milk alternative, so why would you?
Yeah, I mean, we do have milk alternatives because Toasty doesn't like milk. She just doesn't like the taste of milk. It's not an intolerance or anything. She
Yeah,
just doesn't like the taste, and she prefers oat milk and coconut milk. So that's just what we have on hand.
that's fair. Like, if it works, it works. Especially if it's something that, like, if all parties enjoy it. Like we drink almond milk. It's rare that we have regular milk in the house. For one, we're not really milk people, and there's very few instances where it's like where almond milk's not going to work out for whatever we're using. Unless we're making some, like, unless I say we, unless Katie's making something that's very specifically calling for whole milk or like cream or something like that. Like, it's rare that we have actual milk in the house.
Hmm.
But those are the bulk of our like vegetarian options. I know, Slacky, I know you had a list, or a small list of some
Mhm.
other food substitutions. What Llama, if it's cool with you, we're gonna run a few past you, see what your opinions are on these.
Yeah, of course.
The most popular one that I've been seeing, like probably in the last few years, has been cauliflower substituting for rice and for pizza dough.
Sure.
Uh, I'm not on this train whatsoever. Cauliflower. I guess you could say cauliflower is the most blandest vegetable of all time, so it would make sense
Yes.
for it to be substituted for rice in particular. I can't. I
So
don't know if I can do it.
I love cauliflower, like riced cauliflower as the base for a stir fry is
Mhm.
amazing because it does kind of soak up all of the sort of meat juices or teriyaki, like soy sauce, whatever you're making.
Mhm.
I have found that cauliflower rice I actually really like. You can cook it over a high heat, which will give it a little bit more crunch and crisp than you'll
Mhm.
even get with some rices. So I think cauliflower rice for that style of cooking is really, really good. Cauliflower gnocchi and cauliflower pizza crust, I just simply cannot. The texture is wrong. It tastes like nothing. I personally can't do it. But riced cauliflower, I think, is perfect.
I think I can agree with that sentiment like 100%. Cauliflower pizza crust just kind of tastes weird. Like, it has that very like planty kind of taste to it.
Mhm,
But like riced cauliflower used as like a stir fry is just so good.
mhm.
So I can 100% agree with you on that. But I can also agree with Slacky that it's like that is becoming such a prominent thing. I think it's almost kind of like the tail end of everybody riding the gluten-free wave, regardless of if they're actually gluten intolerant or not, where it was like it became like a health trend to be gluten-free, even though glutens are
Mhm.
great. And it's like, well, let's just have cauliflower instead of whatever grain we want to use for this and that and the other thing.
I think another reason for all of this change when it comes to this is I think low carb and
Hmm.
carb free diets have kind of started to take over
Yeah.
a lot of things too, like keto. I know is really big on low carb
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So that's why you see a lot of substitutions. Like another one I have on the list is what we call zoodles, which is basically zucchini noodles
Yeah. They're fantastic, by the way.
in replace of pasta. So like instead of the gluten or the carbs from pasta, you add in basically zucchini as your base for your spaghetti.
With that in mind, have you ever heard of fathead dough? Either of you guys?
Mm,
I have not.
So it's like a super low carb dough substitute. You use, I think it's almond flour. You see, I have the basic recipe. It's almond flour, mozzarella cheese, cream cheese, egg, and baking powder. And like that's it. And you basically just beat the shit out of all that stuff until it's a dough. Using the almond flour makes it stay a doughy kind of texture, and then like all of the cheeses kind of bring all the fats and the stretchiness of it. I've made it once or twice, and both times I made it I was like, this is pretty gross. The second time I made it I was like, maybe the first time I just messed it up. and I was like, let me try to get. No, it's horrible from like a macronutrient perspective. It's great because it's a low carb, high protein thing,
Yeah.
but it's like all fat. So it's one of those things where it's like having a
Yeah.
super high fat diet is like that's bad. Like
Well,
you're this is not a healthy thing to eat.
another thing that I've heard of when it comes to like low carb, for instead of like pancake, like flours and stuff, flour, take a banana, smash a banana and mix it with an egg and use that as your pancake batter.
That
It,
All
sounds
right,
pretty
it,
good.
complete tangent. My TikTok is like 90% cooking trends and things because I am fascinated by people who can cook really well.
Sure.
They were saying take a banana, like an
Mhm.
overripe banana, not quite banana bread overripe, but mix it with like one banana with half a cup of quick oats. Mold them into like
I think I
balls,
saw this.
throw them on the pan, smush them down, throw them in the oven for 15 minutes, and apparently they are incredibly tasty cookies.
I
Like
I think I saw that.
unbelievable. Yeah. And so now I have a bunch of bananas that are halfway going old because I want to try it.
You know, it's like experiment
When you try that, I'm gonna need a follow
Tasting
up.
notes.
Just yeah,
feedback.
I just need to know
Yeah. Okay. I will let you know. My
because that
plan is to
sounds
add chocolate chips or butterscotch chips to them
I know.
for a little bit of sweetness, but like
ooh,
a
that
cookie that is
sounds
just banana, oats, and chocolate, like that would
yeah,
be incredible.
that sounds really good.
Sounds like a good oatmeal, honestly.
Yeah.
An oatmeal with less breakfast
Uh,
influence.
Yeah,
another
that's
thing.
like that's a brunch oatmeal kind of.
Oh yeah. Another thing on the low carb train that I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, is lettuce wrap and what we would call a protein style. There's the famous In-N-Out hamburger place where you can order your hamburger protein style, where
Mhm.
basically instead of getting a bun, you just get your hamburger on 2 slices of lettuce.
That's weird. That's
And
cringy.
it,
That's
Also, but I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes I'll make tacos, and instead of doing homemade tortillas or something, I'll just use
mhm.
Mhm.
lettuce and make like a lettuce wrap or a lettuce taco, and I actually really like it. I think it tastes
Oh,
great.
so
everyone loves taco salad.
yeah, we do that. Well, it's not taco salad.
You know?
Everyone does love taco salad, but we've done that in the past. We do that like we usually do that more like in the summer when it's warmer out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Katie will make like a ground either chicken, turkey, beef, it doesn't matter what,
Mhm.
and we'll have like that. She'll throw some rice in the rice cooker, and then we'll use like whatever kind of lettuce just to use the like a lettuce wrap is so good because especially if you're having it with rice, you don't want to have a
Yeah.
tortilla and rice
Yeah. That's a
because
lot
it's
of,
just like carb and carb.
yeah.
I understand that lettuce isn't really like a full blown nutrient rich vegetable, but it's better than nothing.
The incorporation of the term the bowl has gotten really big too lately. Like Chipotle, you can get like a burrito bowl,
Sure,
basically a burrito without the tortilla. Yeah, and they have cauliflower rice too, I believe now.
that sounds pretty good.
And even this is our monthly mention of Five Guys. They
Let's
have
go.
a burger bowl where you can order your hamburger without the bun, and it basically just comes in like a tin little pan, and it's just like your burger and your cheese
See,
and
that
all of
sounds
the
sad. That
fixins that we'd
sounds.
want. My
I don't want that.
it's good if you're like, you want a hamburger, but you don't, either you can't have the bun because of gluten reasons, or you choose not to have the bun because you're trying to low carb it.
I
It's
think
the same way of like, hey, I want a hamburger, but I can't have the bun.
I think it's fucked up that you would even mention Five Guys when Llama's within earshot
Oh, that's right, the peanuts
because
thing.
I
I'm
So
think
sorry.
yeah,
I
the first time I ever heard of what Five Guys was, I was in high school. My brother and his friends, who were like kind of my friends because they're a little bit older, they're
sure.
cooler. I want to hang out with them. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna go get burgers," and I said, "Cool, I'll go." And so my brother and I hop in the car. We meet everybody at a place called Five Guys. I'd never heard of it, had never been there. Clearly for good reason. Now looking
Mhm.
back on it in hindsight,
Mhm.
but we get out of the car. My brother opens the door for me. I walk one step inside, and just a wave of nausea hits me. And I was
I'm
like,
s-
"Well,
I'm
I
surprised you
what
even
is
got
this?"
into the threshold.
Oh no,
Honestly,
I took one step. I wasn't fully through the door, and I was like, "What's going on?" And my brother goes, "Oh, it, like burger place." And I look, and there are just bags of peanuts on every
hmm
table, and I was just like,
Nope.
I gotta go home. Like, give me the keys. I'm
This
driving
is
home.
this
I'm
is
gonna go
this
get
is
some nachos.
this is
I'll
death.
see you later.
Five Guys of death.
Oh no, it's
Isn't
that's
there a
like
restaurant that does that too? Like, was it Texas Roadhouse used to do
Or
where
Longhorn. I can't remember which one it is.
they
One of
used
the
to have
two. Yeah.
a big old barrel of peanuts like in the
Hmm.
corner of the restaurant.
That's
Like, I don't think they
wild.
do it
I was
anymore.
gonna say, I'm sure they don't do that
I don't
now.
think they do it anymore. Like, they just opened a Texas Roadhouse down the road from where we live, and we went there the other day, and I distinctly remember going, "There used to be a bunch of peanuts in here," but I don't remember seeing them
If
anymore.
you really want your brains to explode,
Uh-oh.
I can eat Chick-fil-A, which uses peanut oil.
Huh.
So from a
What's your problem?
biological perspective, and I'm from Georgia, so
I
like
was gonna say,
that's kind of
Yeah.
needed.
you're from
Um,
Georgia, you have to like Chick-fil-A.
but so there are three things that can denature a protein. So all food allergies are protein based. So like
Mhm.
there are companies that are trying to take out the allergen proteins from a peanut
Okay.
so that they can grow like hypoallergenic peanuts, which is a hilarious concept. Uh,
That's an oxymoron if I've ever heard one.
Right. But so there are three things that can denature proteins. It's heat, it's acidity, and it's salt.
Hmm.
And so if you are making a peanut oil by boiling the peanuts, then like straining and whatnot, that is actually a safe peanut oil for most peanut allergic people. Like if you're allergic to the same proteins in peanuts that I am, you can eat peanut oil. There are some
Interesting.
people who are allergic to different proteins in the peanut and they can't do peanut oil. But for my allergies, I am able to eat those peanut or those things like cooked in peanut oil because
Uh-huh.
of the way the peanut oil is created. But if it's a cold pressed peanut oil, then I can't eat it. So like if it's a nut juice where you add it to water
Mhm.
and you squeeze it, I'm not going to be able to do that. But if you
Like
boil it,
like
I
almond
can.
milk.
Exactly. So there are some people with severe peanut allergies who can still eat Chick-fil-A, like myself, because of
Huh.
the way the peanut oil is made.
That's wild.
Hmm.
That's
I didn't even
huge.
I didn't even think of it, like, the idea
Yeah, like
of
what kind of
Chick-fil-A
oil and stuff like that.
using peanut oil to fry their stuff.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Llama's like, "Yeah, I can handle that." And I'm like, "Wait, it's chicken
No,
breast.
I
How would
didn't
that
eat
be a problem?"
Chick-fil-A. I didn't eat Chick-fil-A for years, and then the chicken biscuit was like a new thing back in
Oh,
what, 2006,
yeah.
and I was super sad because every day that my friends like
Mm,
brought Chick-fil-A to school and I couldn't eat any. So I had my mom call my allergist because, I don't want to confront anybody.
Mhm.
And my allergist was like, actually, let me check. And they got back to me within about 20 minutes and they said, no, Chick-fil-A's peanut oil is safe for you. You can eat
Wild.
that's
it.
wild.
So I went and had my first chicken biscuit ever. And I
Oh,
was
it's
just
so
like,
good.
breakfast is changed.
Do
This
you
is
do you
incredible.
take the chicken off the biscuit and eat the biscuit separately with the jam, or do you eat
No,
it all as one thing?
absolutely not. So I do the best way to do it. If you can find a spicy chicken biscuit, that's a great way to do it. But I add chicken, egg, and cheese. So like
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
do a chicken biscuit with egg and cheese added. And it's my favorite joke about how I'm eating three different types of chicken because Chick-fil-A adds egg to their biscuits.
Let's
So it's a
go.
pre-chicken and egg, a post-chicken in the chicken biscuit, and then the biscuit. So
I don't I don't like
that's the best way
post
to eat
chicken.
it.
Roasted chicken.
I don't like that phrase.
Pre-chicken,
I
post-chicken, and
go on.
uh
Go on. Future? Oh,
no,
like
not future chicken,
there's
but
only two tenses of chicken.
Right.
chicken that has been used among other
The
ingredients to create something different.
the third tense of chicken, which is biscuit.
That's
Yeah,
really
it's
funny.
pre-chicken but diluted, I guess.
Ugh, I don't like that either. All right, Slacky, we have two last things on the list. Both of them are drinkables. We talked
Mhm.
about a lot of different food alternatives, but some drink alternatives. One of these on the list, I have no idea what it is. What is Zip Fizz?
Zip Fizz is a kind of just basically a B12 supplement, and has a little bit of green tea caffeine in it. And I mix it with water every morning. It's what I usually drink as in replacement for coffee.
Okay.
Uh, we first found it at Costco. It came in like different. It comes in like a million different flavors. You can find
Okay,
it in
so
Amazon.
it's like a brand of product. It's not
Yes,
like a thing.
yes.
Okay.
No, no, it's a branded product. Yeah, we just call it Zip Fizz because that's what it's called, and
That's
it's
makes
usually
sense.
what wifey and I drink in the morning in lieu of coffee. It's kind of like if you
Okay.
took, it's kind of like if you took like a liquid IV that has like all the different nutrients and vitamins and crap in it, and then you add like a little bit of B12 and you add in a little bit of green tea caffeine,
So is
and
it just liquid IV plus airborne?
basically, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I was actually just recently, yesterday, as it were, just shitting on liquid IV for being powdered water, just add water, is the biggest, most snake oil scam on paper. I'm sure
Be
there's been
careful.
How
what
dare you?
Be
I am
careful.
I am the founding member of the Church of Liquid IV.
I
How dare
can't.
you?
I can't. No, but hear me out. Liquid water. Just add water. Just drink water. Just drink 2 waters. Like I
Llama,
I can't.
So the big
Pants
Yep.
doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't
So I was
Yeah,
gonna
understand.
so
say, the reason I love liquid IV is like if I'm drinking water like as I should while I drink
Mhm.
alcohol, I will be fine the next day no matter what happens. But most of the time I start drinking and I'm like, ooh, this is fun. I'm not gonna drink water. Water's lame. Beer tastes better. And then I drink, and by the end of the night, I'm like, I can already tell I'm incredibly dehydrated. It's
Mhm.
basically just throwing a bunch of powder in your water to give you electrolytes to help your body process the alcohol better. A lot of people like it after, like the morning after, to help
Sure.
them rehydrate in the morning. I swear by using it the night before and letting
Sure.
your body while you're asleep kind of rehydrate
Rehydrate,
itself.
sure.
You still
So
have to drink it with a ton of water. So, like, I'll drink
mhm.
16 ounces or 18 ounces of water in addition to the 18 ounces of liquid IV. So, like, I will still try to rehydrate myself, but
Sure,
it
but
makes
it helps
hangovers
it.
way better.
So now let me ask, is liquid IV like a is it just like a secret thing that like exists solely for like recreational drinking? Or is
I
this
mean,
like is it like I've never seen literally anybody ever being like, "Man, I love drinking this liquid IV while I'm sitting at the office."
Yeah,
Like
nobody will use it that way. A lot of athletes use it like mid game or post game to help
mhm,
rehydrate,
yeah.
but
okay.
nobody will use it just as like a flavor enhancer to water because the sodium content is so high that if you drink more than like one of them in a day or like
Mhm.
two in a 24 or 48-hour period, it's just the amount of salt you'll be putting into
I
your
was gonna
body
say,
is
does it just
insane.
make you retain
Mhm.
water?
Yeah.
Is that all it
It
does?
helps you retain water and it's got electrolytes and things. So it's like drinking a non-sugary Gatorade,
Yeah.
but like
It,
super, super
Have like
concentrated.
a Pedialyte. Call it a
Mhm.
day.
So
90%,
that's what we did in
90%.
college before Liquid IV existed. Is we would just use Pedialyte,
Fair.
but Liquid IV is just way more convenient because it's a tiny little pouch and you can throw it in your pocket. You go out and you crash at a
Mhm.
friend's place. You've got Liquid IV.
Fair.
It's
But
90% of the time it's used for a hangover recipe. Pants.
Yeah.
But
It's
can you guys see where I'm coming from with the
yes.
snake oil thing where powdered water, just add water sounds like the biggest scam in the world?
Oh yeah. Of
Okay.
course.
I just I want to make sure that I'm not the crazy one here.
No, in practice, it is great as a hangover cure, but they're not going to market themselves as a hangover cure
I
like
think more
entirely
I think more
because
people
that
would buy it
gives
if
them a
they
niche
did.
market. So their TikTok ad campaign was all about like these famous TikTokers, and it was the morning after, and all of them were like, "Oh, I need a liquid IV," and so they're marketing it to the younger generations that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, because I can only see 2 markets for that. One being people that are drunk and people that are high level athletes.
I mean,
Hmm.
if you think about it, like when you think of something like Pedialyte, you think of giving it to your children or giving it to babies. You don't think of 21, 22-year-old college students drinking it the morning after
I
because
I
they have a hangover.
that's the only way I've ever heard of Pedialyte used
But
until I had COVID
Pedialyte's,
when I
but they're
had
not going to
Pedialyte.
market themselves that way. Whereas Liquid IV is basically like, screw it, we know what people are. It's like Jack in the Box. No one eats Jack in the Box except when they're high at midnight. So they leaned in to that market.
I don't even know what that is. Like I know it's fast food,
Yeah,
right?
I've never had Jack in the Box either.
Yeah, must be a West Coast thing.
That's fair. But okay, so now I know what all this is. The last thing I want to talk about real quick,
Oh,
and
just
it's a
by the way, just
oh
to
yeah, go
circle
ahead.
back to make this all work, Liquid IV is allergen free.
Let's
There you
go.
go.
That's good. That's good to know. Seltzers are the other thing that
Mhm.
are a good soda replacement. I drink a lot of sparkling water. I still drink, I would say like 1 to 2 sodas a month because I don't drink a lot of soda, but I drink
Mhm.
like 3 to 4 sparkling waters a week. Seltzer by name, I just don't like the taste of. Sparkling water at least has some like it has that less like carbonic flavor to it. Like if you get like
Yeah.
vintage brand
Agreed.
seltzer, it's just too sharp for me.
Yeah, I mean, we all know, all the great bubbliness of soda. It's just my wife really loves drinking
Hmm.
sparkling water. She almost prefers it to
Yeah.
regular water a lot of the times. There's a brand, I think Coke makes a brand called Bubbly.
Okay.
That has, I
Mhm.
think it has like lime flavor. There's like a blackberry flavor. There's a bunch of different flavors of it too. And
Mm.
that's kind of like her go-to. I know the
Some of
other,
those are caffeinated too.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
get caffeinated bubbly.
Mhm.
Another up and coming sparkling water brand that is really leaned into a weird side of marketing is Liquid Death. I
So
don't know if you
liquid.
guys have seen this.
So let me take the reins on this. Liquid Death tastes like shit. Saw it in like my local convenience store, so I grabbed some, and
Mhm.
they had one that was sparkling, one that was not, and I was like, all right, let me grab them both and try them. I'm a big fan of water, and
Shout out to water.
yeah, dude, shout out to water. Any water sponsors? Unless you're Dasani, I'm interested. But Liquid Death is just not good. It just doesn't taste good. And I think it
Right?
has a lot to do with the fact that it's in a can.
Mhm.
It has a super metallic taste to it, and it just tastes bad. It's like a big hype beast kind
Yeah,
of thing
that's
where it's like it's a it's the water equivalent of drinking Prime.
I think they spent all of their money on brand image, and marketing,
Sure.
and forgot to actually put decent product in the
Yeah,
cans.
100%. And it's like it's just not good. Like the cans look cool. Their advertisements are funny and like oh that's pretty cool. But like their product is just not good. I know a lot of people really like them, but I am curious how many people actually like it and how many people are just paid to have a can of Liquid Death in front of them when they're live or
Yeah,
when they're
because
on
there's
I
a
I
on a
know
thing.
somebody
sponsorship.
who actually likes it, like, will go out of their way to find it and drink it.
Sure.
Interesting.
And that like the same way there's probably some people that prefer drinking skim milk. Like everyone's gonna like something. Like there's always gonna be a market for everything.
Sure.
As an avid water drinker, I think I really do think it has to be the can that like changes the
Mm.
flavor just enough that I'm like, ooh, this is not great.
Mhm.
We have, like, here at our house, when we bought our house 2 years ago, we installed the reverse osmosis water filtration system, and
Okay,
so any other bottled water tastes
it's just
weird
inferior.
weird to me. Like,
Hmm.
I just, like, my wife and I, we joke where it's like, she goes to the office, she takes like a huge 40-ounce bottle of our water to her
Hmm.
office because she's like, I'm not drinking the office water because it's gross. I like our water.
Yeah, that's completely reasonable. Like, especially like if you live somewhere that where like we have a well,
Mhm.
and we have
Wow.
safe drinking water, not like a physical well. Like I go and get a fucking bucket, idiot. Like we,
You said well.
yeah, it's called a well water. It's drinkable, potable water. Like I can, and it's good. Like I work somewhere that doesn't really have super safe city water,
Yeah.
so I bring a gallon jug of water with me, and I drink it, and I'm like, oh, this is fine. Will I drink bottled water? Sure. Do I feel like a schmuck paying $1.50 or $2 for a bottle like a a 16-ounce bottle of water when I have infinite water at my disposal? Kind of. Will I do it in a pinch? Sure.
Well, the reason we got the filtration system here is because where we live, the water is almost undrinkable.
Sure.
Like, it's super hard and gritty. You don't drink the tap water here. Like,
Hmm.
everywhere you go, it's either bottled water or filtered water. The water companies that deliver the huge bottles to your house, like,
Hmm.
are living large out here. It's one of the reasons why we went with the filtration system in the house, just because it's almost unnecessary.
I think that's pretty much everything we got cooking. Llama,
Thanks for having me,
I
y'all.
was just say, do you have any parting words? We usually try to end with some form of advice. Last month we didn't do that because blasphemy happened. But yeah, if you have any wisdom you'd like to impart as we sail off into the sunset for this month, now would be a good time to do that.
Half sarcastically, but reading labels is important.
I think that's
Bro.
fair. I think knowing what's that's it.
The
That's
moment you
that's
stop reading them, it'll sneak up on you.
that's good. Read the labels
And,
or you'll die.
and don't be jerks. Don't be jerks to the kids at the allergy
No,
table.
you can make fun of them. It's fine.
Yeah, you can make fun of them. Just know that they're likely half sad that they have to sit there.
You've made it this far. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next month, tongs in hand, as we bust out the grills to discuss some of the best summer cookout foods that we can find. This has been the Fat Pants Podcast.